Gilly of the Goatskin has gone with the churl to the townland of Mischance, and he's made a deal with him that he's not going to complain or say that he wishes he hadn't made that the deal with him. So we're going to see what happens next. What did Gilly of the Goatskin do in the townland of Mischance? He got up early and went to bed late. He was kept digging, delving, and ditching until he was so tired that he could go to sleep in a furze bush. He ate a breakfast that left him hungry 5 hours before dinner time, and he ate a dinner that made it seem long until supper time. I just want to tell you guys, we've read a lot of books that have dinner and supper, and when they say dinner and supper, dinner is lunchtime and supper is dinner time. Or it's supper time, it's the evening meal. A lot of times, though, nowadays we use dinner to say the evening meal. So they're using supper as the evening meal and dinner as the noon meal. That's what that means. If he complained, the churl would say, "Well, then, you are sorry for your bargain." And Gilly would say, "No," rather than lose the wages he had earned and a strip of his skin into the bargain. One day the churl said to him, "Go into the town for salt for my supper. Take the short way across the pasture field, and be sure not to let the grass grow under your feet." "All right, master," said Gilly. "Maybe you would bring me my coat out of the house so that I needn't make 2 journeys." The churl went into the house for Gilly's coat. When he came back, he found Gilly standing in the nice grass of the pasture field, lighting a wisp of hay. What are you doing that for?" said the churl to him. "To burn the grass on the pasture field," said Gilly. "To burn the grass on my pasture field, you villain! The grass that is for my good racing horses' feeding. What do you mean at all?" "Sure, you told me not to let the grass grow under my feet," said Gilly. "Doesn't the world know that the grass is growing every minute? And how will I prevent it from growing under my feet if I don't burn it?" With that, he stooped down and to put the lighted hay to the grass of the pasture field. "Stop, stop," said the churl. "I meant that you were to go to the town without loitering on the way." Loitering means standing around. "Well, it's a pity you didn't speak more clearly," said Gilly, "for now the grass is afire." The churl had to stamp on the grass to put the fire out. He burnt his shins, and that made him very angry. "Oh, you fool," he said to Gilly, "I'm sorry." "Are you sorry for the bargain you made with me, master?" "No. I was going to say that I was sorry I hadn't made my meaning clear to you. Go now to the town and bring me back my salt for my supper as quickly as you can." After that, the churl was very careful when he gave Gilly an order to speak to him very exactly. This became a great trouble to him, for the people in the townland of Mischance used to always say, "Don't let the grass grow under your feet," when they meant make haste, and "Don't be there until you're back," when they meant go quickly, and "Come back with horses' legs," when they meant come with great speed. He became tired of speaking to Gilly by the letter, so he made up his mind to give him an order that could not be carried out, so that he might have a chance of sending him away without the wages he had earned. On Monday morning, he called Gilly to the door of the house and said to him, "Take this sheepskin to the market and bring me back the price of it and the skin." "Very well, master," said Gilly. He put the skin across his arm and went towards the town. The people on the road said to him, "What do you want for the sheepskin, young fellow?" "I want the skin and the price of it," Gilly said. The people laughed at him and said, "You're going to give yourself a long journey, young fellow." He went through the market asking for the skin and the price of it. Everyone joked about him. He went into the market house and came to a woman who was buying things that no one else would buy. "What do you want, youth?" said she. "The price of the skin and the skin itself," said Gilly. She took the skin from him and plucked the wool out of it. She put the wool in her bag and put the skin back on the board. "There's the skin," she said, "and here's the price for it." She left 3 groats and a tester on the top of the skin. The churl had finished his supper when Gilly came into the house. "Well, master, I've come back to you," said Gilly. "Did you bring me the price of it and the skin itself?" said the churl. There is the skin, said Gilly, putting on the table the sheep's skin with the wool plucked out of it. And here's the price of it, 3 groats and a tester, said he, leaving the money on top of the skin. After that, the churl of the townland of Mischance began to be afraid that Gilly of the goatskin would be too wise for him, and would get away at the end of 3 months with his wages, a guinea, a groat, and a tester in his fist. This thought made the churl very downcast, because for many months now he had got hard labor out of his serving boys without giving them a single cross for wages. The day after Christmas, the churl said to Gilly, "This is St. Stephen's Day. I'm going to such a man's barn to see the mummers perform a play. Foolish people give these idle fellows money for playing, but I won't do any such thing as that. I'll see something of what they are doing, drink a few glasses, and get away before they start collecting money from the people that are watching them. They call this collection their dues, no less." "And what can I do for you, master?" said Gilly. "Run into the barn at midnight and shout out, 'Master, master, your mill is on fire!' That will give me an excuse for running out. Do you understand now what I want you to do?" "I understand, master." The churl put on his coat and took his stick in his hand. "Mind what I've said to you," said he. "Don't be a minute later than midnight. Be sure to come in with a great rush. Come in with horses' legs. Do you understand me?" "I understand you, master," said Gilly. The mummers were dancing before they began the play, when the churl came into the barn. "That's a rich man," said one of them to another. "We must see that he puts a good handful into our bag." The churl sat on the bench with the farmer who had a score of cows, with the blacksmith who shod the king's horses, and with the merchant who had been in foreign parts and who wore big silver rings in his ears. Half the people who were there I could not tell you, but there were Biddy Early, Tatterjack Walsh, Aunt Jug, Lundy Foot, Matt the Thresher, Nora Creona, Nonan Mowell, and Sean the Omadon. Some said that the King of Ireland's son was there too. The play was The Unicorn from the Stars. The mummers did it very well, although they had no one to take the part of the unicorn. They were in the middle of the play when Gilly of the goatskin rushed into the barn. "Master, master," he shouted, Your mill is on fire!" The churl stood up, then put his glass to his head and drained what was in it. "Make way for me, good people," said he. "Let me out of this, good people." Some people near the door began to talk of what Gilly held in his hands. "What have you there, my servant?" said the churl. "A pair of horses' legs, master. I could only carry 2 of them." The churl caught Gilly by the throat. "A pair of horses' legs," said he. "Where did you get a pair of horses' legs?" "Off a horse," said Gilly. "I had trouble in cutting them off. Bad cess to you for telling me to come here with horses' legs." "And whose horse did you cut the legs off of?" "Your own, master. You wouldn't have liked me to cut off the legs off any other person's horse, and I thought your racehorse's legs would be the most suitable to cut off." The mummers and the people were gathered round them, and they saw the churl's face get black with vexation. "Oh, my misfortune that I ever met with you," said the churl. "Are you sorry for your bargain, master?" said Gilly. "Sorry? I'll be sorry every day and night of my life for it," said the churl. "You hear what my master says, good people," said Gilly. "Aye, sure, he says he's sorry for the bargain he made with you," said some of the people. "Then," said Gilly, "strip him and put him across the bench until I cut a strip of his skin an inch wide from his neck to his heel." None of the people would consent to do that. "Well, I'll tell you something that will make you consent," said Gilly. "This man made 2 poor servant boys work for him, paid them no wages, and took a strip of their skin, so that they are sick and sore to this day. Will that make you strip him and put him across the bench?" "No," said some of the people. "He ordered me to come here tonight and to shout, 'Master, master, your mill is on fire,' so that he might be able to leave without paying the mummers for their dues. His mill is not on fire at all." "Strip him," said the first mummer. "Put him across the bench," said another. "Here's a skinner's knife for you," said a third. The mummers seized the churl, stripped him, and put him across the bench. Gilly took the knife and began to sharpen it on the ground. "Have mercy on me," said the churl. "You did not have mercy on the other two poor servant boys," said Gilly. "I'll give you your wages in full." "That's not enough." "I'll give you double wages to give to the other servant boys." "And will you pay the mummer's dues for all the people here?" No, I can't do that." "Stretch out your neck, then, until I mark the place where I shall begin to cut the skin." "Don't put the knife to me, I'll pay the dues for all," said the churl. "You heard what he said," said Gilly to the people. "He will pay me wages in full, give me double wages to hand to the servant boys he has injured, and pay the mummer's dues for everyone." "We heard him say that," said the people. "Stand up and dress yourself," said Gilly to the churl. "What do I want with a strip of your skin? But I hope all here will go home with you and stand in your house until you have paid all the money that's claimed from you." "We'll go home with him," said the mummers. "We'll stand on his floor until he has paid all the money he has agreed to pay," said the others. "And now I must tell you, neighbors," said Gilly, "that I never cut the legs off of a living horse, neither his horse nor anyone else's. This pair was taken off a poor dead horse by the skinners that were cutting it up." Well, they all went to the churl's house, and there they stayed until he opened his stone chest and took out his money box and paid the mummers the dues of all the people with 6 pence over, and paid Gilly his wages in full, 1 guinea, 1 groat, and a tester, and handed him double wages to give to each of the serving boys he had injured. Gilly took the money and left the house of the churl of the townland of Mischance, and the people and the mummers went to the road with him and cheered him as he went on his way. So without hap or mishap, Gilly came again to the house of the spae woman. She was sitting at her doorstep grinding corn with a quern when he came before her. She cried over him, not believing that he had come safe from the townland of Mischance. As long as he was with her, she spoke to him of his poor back. He stayed with her for 2 seasons. He mended her fences, and he cleared her spring well. He ground her corn, and he brought back her swarm of bees. He trained a dog to chase the crows out of her field, and he had the donkey shod, the sheep washed, and the goat spankled. The spae woman was much beholden to him for all he did for her. And one day she said to him, "Gilly of the goatskin, you are called, but another name is due to you now." "And who will give me another name?" said Gilly of the goatskin. "Who'll give it to you? Who but the old woman of beer?" said the spae woman. The next day she said to him, "I had a dream last night, and I know now what you are to do. You must go now to the old woman of beer for the name that is due to you, and before she gives it to you, you must tell her, and whoever else is in her house, as much as you know of the unique tale." "But I know nothing at all of the unique tale," said Gilly of the goatskin. "There is always a blank before a beginning," said the spae woman. "This evening, when I am grinding the corn at the quern, I shall tell you the unique tale." That evening, when she sat at the doorstep of her house, and when the sun was setting behind the elder bushes, the spae woman told Gilly the 3rd part of the unique tale. Then she baked a cake and killed a cock for him, and told him to start on the morrow's morning for the house of the old woman of beer. Well, he started off in the morning bright and early, leaving Good Health with the spae woman behind him. And away he went, crossing high hills, passing low dales, and keeping on his way without halt or rest, the clear day going and the dark night coming, taking lodgings each evening wherever he found them, and at last he came to the house of the old woman of beer. He went into the house and found her making marks in the ashes of her fire while her cuckoo, her corncrake, and her swallow were picking grains off the table. "And what can I do for you, good youth?" said the old woman of beer. "Give me a name," said Gilly, "and listen to the story I have to tell you." "That I will not," said the old woman of beer, "until you have done a task for me." "What task can I do for you?" said Gilly of the goatskin. "I would know," said she, "which of us 4 is the oldest creature in the world, myself or Laheen the eagle, Blackfoot the elk, or the crow of Atchel. I leave the salmon of Asaro out of account altogether." "And how can a youth like me help you to know that?" said Gilly of the Goatskin. "An ox was killed on the day I was born, and on every one of my birthdays afterward. The horns of the oxen are in 2 quarries outside. You must count them, and tell me how much half of them amounts to, and I shall know my age." "I'll do that if you feed me and give me shelter," said Gilly of the Goatskin. "Eat as you like," said the old woman of beer. She pushed him a loaf of bread and a bottle of water. Then he cut a slice of the loaf. It was just as if nothing had been cut off, and when he took a cupful of the bottle, it was as if no water had been taken out of it at all. When he had drunk and eaten, he left the complete loaf and the full bottle of water on the shelf, went outside, and began to count the horns on the right-hand side. On the second day, a strange youth came to him and saluted him, and then went to count the horns in the quarry on the left-hand side. This youth was none other than the King of Ireland's son. On the third day, they had the horns all counted. Then Gilly of the Goatskin and the King of Ireland's son met together under a bush. "How many horns have you counted?" said the King of Ireland's son. "So many," said Gilly of the Goatskin. "And how many horns have you counted?" "So many," said the King of Ireland's son. Just as they were adding the 2 numbers together, they both heard sounds in the air. They were like the sounds that bards make chanting their verses. And when they looked up, they saw a swan flying round and round above them. And the swan chanted the story of the coming of the Milesians to Erin, and as the 2 youths listened, they forgot the number of horns they had counted. And when the swan had flown away, they looked at each other, and as they were hungry, they went into the house and ate slices of the unwasted loaf and drank cupfuls out of the inexhaustible bottle. Then the old woman of beer wakened up and asked them to tell her the number of her years. "We cannot tell you, although we counted all the horns," said the King of Ireland's son. "For just as we were putting the numbers together, a swan sang to us, and we forgot the number we had counted." "You didn't do your task rightly," she said, "but as I promised to give this youth a name and listen to the story he had to tell, I shall have to let it be. You may tell the story now, Gilly of the Goatskin." They sat at the fire, and while the old woman of beer spun threads on a very ancient spindle, and while the corncake, the cuckoo, and the swallow picked up grains and murmured to themselves, Gilly of the Goatskin told them the unique tale. And the story, as Gilly of the Goatskin told it, follows this.